Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
I saw you were with them last night.
All righty, Aphrodite. That's engaging time coming to a venue near you in the near future once I get my act together. Sean, welcome back to 101.5 FM WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. It's interesting you're talking about this healthcare for college students tonight, because I can think of times when, students would be, I'm going to go over to the health center, or, and there was a clinic on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that was all you could go to. And sometimes in my university, it was staffed by the nursing and medical school, and it was a way for them to provide some outreach. But, if you had to go to the hospital down the road, geez, I wouldn't have known how to deal with that. So you hit on something that I thought was kind of good. Was, yeah, you might say that you do have health insurance, but you know how to use it? I mean, a lot of us, we leave our parents' house and go away to college, and we're, barely out of the larva stage and don't know how to function with those kind of things.
Yeah, and it's not their fault, and it's not necessarily the parents' fault. This is complicated, and people just kind of pigeonhole the whole health insurance thing as, one size fits all, and it doesn't. If you're going to buy it from the school, you lose the option or the opportunity to choose the kind of coverage you want. They're going to tell you what's going to be available. It's not up to you. It's not a choice. It's, here's your 4 or 5 different choices. Pick a lane, and then it's going to be mandated to take unless you tell them, I don't want it. I've got something else. And I don't know this for sure, Sean, but I would say to you that if I'm running a college and somebody says to me, I don't need the health insurance, I'm probably going to want to be asking, well, I want to see proof of other coverage. And no offense, but I don't want to be in a position of having to defend myself in court when I canceled your policy and took it out of the tuition, and then you develop some medical malady that none of us saw coming, and now I'm being sued because I took it away from you. And to your point about infirmaries, I went to Illinois Benedictine. That's all we had was an infirmary. Mm-hmm. And it was basically for colds and flus and minor this and that and the other thing. It was not meant for a hospitalization. I'm pretty sure, like you, we were both probably covered by our parents' plan. Mm-hmm. I don't know back then, because it's a long time ago, was it an option to have the health insurance, or did they just include the infirmary as a part of the deal, and that's what you're going to get? Fast forward to now, there's a lot of colleges are going to offer you a bunch of stuff, but they're going to mandate that you take it unless you say otherwise. So,
well, and just thinking about that though, they might offer you the infirmary, but I remember when you went there, it was like going to the nurse's office in high school.
Yeah, pretty much.
You could get aspirin or antacids or Band-Aids or stuff like that, but if there was anything that was more severe than that, you had to call the squad.
Yep.
Or the ambulance, sorry.
Yep. And then if the ambulance comes, is that your ticket? Is that covered by your insurance? What's the deal? So
yep.
So it's something that parents have to pay a little bit more attention to. Now, if their kid is very healthy and there's no problems, most of them are going to roll their eyes and do whatever the cheapest thing is. Or if I've got coverage through my employer, I'm fine. But if you got pre-existings and you've got moving parts in your life, you're a diabetic, you've got MS, you're in a wheelchair, you've got a medical condition that is sensitive to certain medications, and you've got to pay attention that you're on warfarin, a blood thinner that you have to pay attention to every couple of weeks. Those are the kind of things that those parents are going to be very much attuned to what is going to be needed for their child. and they're going to be up on things. But the 80% of the parents that, and this is not their fault, my kid is fine, they're healthy, they don't have any issues, we'll just pick the cheapest one and we'll have catastrophic coverage and go with it. So what we're getting at before the break was that the Obamacare plans are available, but the subsidized health care plans may not be available because it's an income-driven subsidy situation. And so if you're not making enough money to qualify for a subsidy, then the next option, Sean, is Medicaid. Well, that's a problem because that's a state-based run situation. And in a lot of cases, you have to establish residency in the state you're in to qualify for Medicaid. And that varies from state to state. And if you're there as a college student, my suspicion is that's not going to qualify you unless there's some kind of a 30-day window where you can establish residency and you change your driver's license and you change this and you change that. But if you're 19 or 20 years old and you changed addresses, you've now changed the dynamic of your parents' situation. They can no longer deduct you as a dependent if you've established residency somewhere else. Now, that gets into tax stuff, and we're not tax people, but that becomes another issue that the parent has to deal with. So Medicaid, while it may be an answer for in-state students, for out-of-state students, that's not going to work very well. So what other options are there? There are these things called short-term medical plans or gap plans. They're meant to bridge the gap between point A and point B. And we covered a topic on this a few weeks ago, Sean. I don't know if you were on the show with me at that time, but the state of Illinois, as of January 1st, has outlawed the sale of short-term medical plans going forward. And unfortunately, they've been outlawed because some brokers were selling them as alternatives to the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. It was an alternative to buying more permanent, more robust coverage. And the problem is that these are anything but a replacement. They are meant for catastrophic. They're meant for gap. They don't cover routine care. They don't cover your maintenance drugs. And every 6 months when you renew them, there are pre-existing condition clauses that are attached to them that have a 5-year look back. So if you're looking at a short-term medical plan, which, by the way, some schools will offer a short-term medical plan, can't be in Illinois, but other states where they still allow these things, and there's a lot of them, they may offer as an option a short-term medical plan where it says, here, Sean, we'll give you medical care. You've got a big network. You can pretty much go anywhere in the country you want. Just understand regular checkups aren't covered, maintenance drugs aren't covered, and if you get sick or hurt, the next time you renew, it's now a pre-existing condition and it will not be covered, period, full stop. So these are plans that are sometimes affordable, for sure, bigger networks, lower premiums, but they've got pre-existing conditions and you've got to change plans every 6 months, even if they're offered by university. So buyer beware in this thing, and if you've got somebody telling you it's just like Obamacare, it is not just like Obamacare, not even close. But there are some states, and I was doing some Googling of some colleges before I came here tonight, and there's one college I came to, I'm not going to say who, that outlined a full, robust program, a short-term medical plan, a hospital indemnity and accident plan, and a teledoc plan. So let's talk about hospital and accident benefits. A hospital indemnity plan is just that. You end up in the hospital, it's going to indemnify you or reimburse for care in the hospital on a daily basis. Let's say $1,000 for the first day and $100 a day thereafter, or $200 a day thereafter. It may offer some other side benefits too, but it's predominantly there in the event you end up in the hospital that you have some remuneration. These are not health insurance policies. These are programs to supplement a health insurance policy. So if you buy a $9,400 deductible plan for catastrophic reasons, great. You might want to buy a hospital indemnity plan so as to put some money in your pocket and pay your $9,400 deductible because you're going to need it. Then there are accident plans, and that's what they are. If you're in an accident of any kind, you fall and sprain your ankle, you break your finger, you burn yourself, you cut yourself, you're in a car accident, a litany of things, anything that's accident driven. There are dollars that will be reimbursed to you in the event of a circumstance like a burn or a stitch or a broken ankle, broken leg, sprained ankle. These are accident-driven programs, and the benefit varies maybe from $50 all the way up to $10,000 depending on the circumstances, or more. Those also have premiums. And again, if you're buying an Obamacare plan with a $9,400 deductible, maybe it's worthwhile to look at an accident and hospital indemnity plan, because that number, that $9,400 deductible, that's a real number. And how are you going to pay that? As I like to say, at least now when I'm assessing things for myself, can I write a check for that amount of money, or do I have to buy something that's more expensive because in the event of a catastrophe, I can at least cut a check for $4,000, not $10,000. So every single person has to be able to answer that question. And there will be a lot of people that just choose to not have insurance, and they, if they're allowed to waive the coverage with the school, and the school doesn't push back or say, okay, fine, but understand you're not covered if something happens to you, that's okay if they're going to do that. But I've seen these kind of limited coverages, at least for the couple of schools that I looked at, and it doesn't surprise me. What's Teledoc? Teledoc is nothing more than calling a doctor on an 800 number and saying, this is my problem, these are my medical conditions, these are my symptoms, what should I do? A Teledoc is going to be limited as to how much they can do for you or what they can diagnose. Now, I can tell you my son had a pneumothorax this a few years ago. And we called the Teledoc because we didn't know at the time, because it was the first time it happened to him, what happened. And curiously enough, the Teledoc diagnosed him perfectly. And when we went to the urgent care, they took a picture of his lung, and you could see the hole in his lung. That's the problem. The Teledoc did that. I'm told a Teledoc, if he's got the right equipment, can look at your throat or look at your ear or look at a cut on your hand or whatever and make an assessment, even though he's not or she's not there. They can make an assessment and then direct you to the appropriate care thereafter. So there is some value to having a Teledoc, but it's not a replacement for health insurance. It just allows, it's kind of like the infirmary, Sean. I've got a place to go. I've got somebody to look at. They can tell me my symptoms, and here's some aspirin. Go lay down. If they have to make an assessment where you have to go to the emergency room, then it's a matter of what kind of plan do you have? Are you covered, or are you on your own? Are you a cash payer, or are you an insurance payer? And then we get to foreign students. What if you're coming from China or some other foreign country? Most of those countries do have some level, if not all of them, have some level of national health care. Great, terrific. But that doesn't transition or transcend across the pond. They may have to have something here in the States to make sure they're covered. I can say this with some certainty. My son Randy got to go to Spain for 9 months. He was recruited to play soccer there as a junior in high school, and went to school there, played soccer there for 9 months, and we had to prove that we had health insurance to cover him in the event of a medical malady. Now, fortunately, Randy never got hurt. Even though he hurt his wrist, he played through it. He thinks he actually broke his wrist. I wouldn't doubt it, but he played through it because he didn't want to come home, and he didn't want to give up. So he played through the pain. He may pay for that when he's 40. But we had to prove that we had health insurance when we went to Spain. When a foreign student comes here, they may have to either acquiesce to what's being offered, and they may very well just take it because it's the path of least resistance, or you can do these international medical plans that are available to students, and those plans are different than short-term medical. Even though there are pre-existing condition clauses, they will cover you for up to a year. In one or two cases, sometimes longer. But they do have pre-existings. They do have limitations as to what they're going to cover. But the foreign student does have some options as long as they're not laden with pre-existing condition clauses. A child that is in a wheelchair is likely going to be fully covered by their parents' plan or on Medicaid, and it's highly unlikely that student, and I'm not going to presuppose something, but it's highly unlikely that a student in a wheelchair is going to go across the country to some other school outside of the state in which they lived, particularly for health insurance reasons. So there's a lot of moving parts, and there's no one size fits all. And every state you go to is going to have different rules, and every school that you go to is going to have different rules and different policies and different approaches. So as I like to say, if you're not sure, ask for help at a professional level, like somebody like me who understands how to navigate these things, how to ask good questions so that you, the buyer, can be assured that your son or daughter is going to be fully covered, fully for what you need them to be covered for. And again, that's going to be a choice. You want them to be robustly covered or just limited coverage depending on the circumstances. You have to make that call as a parent. Now, there's one last thing. Let's say, and there's a lot of kids like this too, the parent is not really in the picture. They're the parent, but they're not in the picture from a financial standpoint, and the student's on his own. Can he get an Obamacare plan? Again, we have income issues with Obamacare. Probably not with the subsidy at least. He can get a plan through healthcare.gov for sure, but he may have to pay the retail price, not the subsidized price. Could he qualify for Medicaid? If he's in state, maybe because of income. If he's out of state, probably not. Can he do a short-term medical plan? For those states that offer those, yes, but again, buyer beware. I would be very cautious to go into that. Could he go without? Yes, as long as if the school acquiesces, the student can go without. You just cross your fingers. Thousands of people across the country do that. I don't doubt that for a minute. But this is not a simple discussion. It's a lot of moving parts. It can be complicated. And it's not just about the math, but what does your son or daughter need? So what do you think, Sean?
I'm glad that I don't have children getting ready to go to college because, I mean, I would have health care for them if they were at home. Mm-hmm. But to be able to figure out all of the different things, I mean, it requires you to gather a tremendous amount of information and then sit down and read all of it to figure out where the gotchas are. Right. Because, as you mentioned, when I went to college, back when I majored in blacksmithing, it was, you got covered for 2 leach bloodlettings a year, and that was about it. But no, I mean, the health insurance my dad had was great, but it was an HMO. Yep. So I would have to come back, and I live close to home, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But for people that are 2, 3, 4 hours away or a plane flight away, that may not just be doable, especially if you're in pain or you're hurting or you have a pneumothorax and try to get on a plane with that, I think would be dangerous. Yeah. So.
Now, I this is after I graduated, of course, but I went to go play soccer at an alumni soccer game with the varsity. Mm-hmm. And this was 15 years ago, maybe. I was in my I was in my late 40s or early 50s. I was no doubt the oldest person on the field. And I like to say this, not to pat myself on the back, but I was the oldest player in the field because I helped start the soccer program in 1979 at Illinois Benedictine. So I knew I was the oldest player. And there was a corner kick that was about to happen, and the varsity team took no prisoners, Sean. They were out for blood. They were going to show the old guys that they needed to come off the field. So I see the ball coming. It's coming at a very fast pace. I see in my peripheral 3 guys charging the net, and I'm like, okay, just go get the ball. This is going to hurt. That's all I said to myself. I went to go get the ball. I actually punched it out. I saw the ball go high in the air and about 40 yards to the right of me, and I landed on the ground, and so did a bunch of other people. And I got up, and my right forearm was sore, and I could squeeze my hand, but that was it. And additional context here, I had 2 of my younger sons, neither of which could drive. They were like 2 and 4 or 2 and 6 or something. So they were old enough to be there. Maybe they were 4 and 8. Either way, they were old enough to be there to watch Dad play. They're certainly not ready to drive by any stretch. And I got up, and my hand was sore. My arm was sore. I could squeeze my hand. And I said, I'm going to take myself out. The trainer came over to me, and they said, turn your arm. And I went, oh, my God. And I knew right away I broke my arm. I knew it was broken. I'm an hour away from where I live. The Benedictine College, folks, is in Lisle, Illinois. It's an hour drive from Lisle to Lake Villa, where we lived at the time. I drove with my arm tied to my body, drove with one hand, got the kids in the car, seatbelted them, put them in their car seats and whatever, and I got them home, and then I went to the emergency room. So to your point, even though I was close, I wasn't close enough to have to go directly to an emergency room, which may have been 10 minutes away. I wanted to get them home first, and then I dealt with myself. So, this is not for the faint of heart. So get good counsel, get good advice, and you're going to drive yourself crazy if you're going to try to do the research on your own, folks. I'm just telling you. So with a couple of minutes left in the show, I wanted to share this with everybody. I wrote a song a couple weeks ago, Sean, and these are the lyrics. It was from a person named Bart Millard, who's from Mercy Me. I was listening to a speech he was giving, and at the end of the speech, I just wrote down, "You blow me away." And in the context of what's going on with our world today, and also what's going on south of us, these are the lyrics, and I hope they resonate with you. It's called "Lord, You Blow Me Away." He wakes me up and tells the sun to shine. He wakes me up and says grace will be mine. We are not guaranteed tomorrow. With faith and love, there is no need for sorrow. Lord, you blow me away. Your love shines bright as day, even in the darkest of night or darkest of times. Lord, you blow me away. God has a plan for you and for me. No matter what the world says, you have hope. You are worthy. You have value. You are loved. Lord, you blow me away. Your love shines bright as day. Even in the darkest of times, Lord, you blow me away. And there's music coming for that soon. I want to wish those people in Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia, my prayers and my sentiments go out to you. Stay safe, stay hunkered down, and hopefully we ride through this and we're better people for it. We circle the wagons as Americans and we go and help those people who are in need of help. You all have a great night. We'll see you next week. My name is Bill Miksch. That is Sean Hauser. This is Your Insurance Corner at 101.5 FM WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. Have a great night, everybody. Say some prayers to the people in Florida tonight, and we'll see you next week. Take care.